Now you begin with this day, and at least 2 or 3 times every day, begin to realize that the soul of you, the intelligence of you, the life of you, which is at the center of your being, is governing and controlling your body. You might have to take my word for this until you've tried it for yourself. If you try it faithfully, you will find a difference in your bodies in much less than a week's time. The world belief is that food nourishes us, that certain foods nourish us. Certain foods provide certain elements and substances of the body. And according to the material standard of life, there's no doubt that that's true. Let us not believe for a moment that in the human picture, when they tell us that vitamin A does this and vitamin B does that, it actually does. And when they tell us that we require so many calories for this and so many calories for that, it's probably true. And in many cases, it actually works. In the same way that aspirin, 99 times out of 100, will relieve a headache. It'd be foolish for us, even as students of truth, to deny that on the human plane, aspirin does its work, and vitamins does its work, and minerals do their work, calories do their work. But now, if they were doing their work perfectly, functioning perfectly for us, we probably would not be looking for something higher and better. Now, here we go. The food you eat does not nourish you, nor do your digestive organs digest, nor do your eliminative organs eliminate. Because in and of themselves, the organs and functions of the body can't move, can't operate, can't do a thing. They would be like my hand here. My hand here, left to itself, is just going to stay there forever and forever and forever. There has to be something called I, to say I move it, I raise it, I lower it. This hand in and of itself can't punch or pet. It has no way of determining whether to punch or pet or even how. But there is something called I that determines whether it will punch or pet, or whether it will remain here, or whether it will move. So that I really am the law under this hand. I am the activity of this hand, since in and of itself it can't even move. There it remains. I am the activity of this hand, and I am the intelligence of this hand. I am the law under this hand. I am the motive power under this hand. Matter of fact, I'm just about all there is under this hand. Without me, this hand is nothing and can do nothing and can be nothing. I give it its power. I give it direction. I give it all that it could ever have or ever be. Now then, there's no difference between that and the heart and the liver and the lungs. No difference between that and the digestive organs or eliminative organs. And if you think for a moment that the digestive organs can digest separate and apart from your direction, you have failed to see that the body in and of itself is just a dead piece of flesh. It has nothing in and of itself. It is nothing in and of itself. There is an I that governs and controls the entire situation. Oh, I suppose many of you have had the experience of being in love sometime or other. Until you know what it means to touch the body, the hand, or of the one you love. You know the sensation you get from it? Well, now, is that sensation in the hand or body, or is it in you? If the sensation were in the hand, then any time we touch anybody, we would have the same sensation, but we don't. This hand could touch almost anybody in this room, and it would just be hand touching hand, that's all. But let this hand touch the one, and then see what happens. Ah, it's almost electricity. It's vital, it's alive, it's real. But that has nothing to do with the hand, that has to do with me. That has to do with my identity. That has to do with my relationship with the world. Every organ and function of the body responds the same way. It has sensation in one direction, it has none in another. To one it responds to ice cream, to another it doesn't. To one it responds to chocolate candy, to another it doesn't. What doesn't? The body? No. It's that which constitutes I, me. That's what responds to ice cream or chocolate or people. I, me, I determine that. Now then, because human belief, universally accepted, has said that the issue of your life is in your heart, or in the liver, or the kidneys, or the digestive organs, or the eliminative organs, we have become victims of that belief. We have become victims, and then we say, my heart doesn't function. Or we say, my kidneys, or my liver, or my digestive organs, or my eliminative organs, they don't function. We might just as well say, my hand punches everybody it sees. As if my hand had such a power. It hasn't. My hand is completely obedient to direction from me. Now you begin with this day, and at least 2 or 3 times every day, begin to realize that the soul of you, the intelligence of you, the life of you, which is at the center of your being, is governing and controlling your body. That your body isn't controlling you, but you are controlling your body. That there is a soul at the center of your being. There is a soul, a spirit, or consciousness, and that its function is to animate your body, to be the law under your body, to be the substance of it, and the activity of it, and the intelligence of it. And its function is to govern your body intelligently and harmoniously, and not only that, but eternally. Not just to 80 years and 10, but on to 120 or 30 or 40 or 50, if you like. There's no limit to the length of time that our body will function, except the limit of universal belief that we accept. Now, it takes practice, discipline, just as it does to practice the presence of God, as it's outlined on those pages in the Infinite Way. Just as it takes practice to practice the presence of God, so it takes practice to get used to the idea that your body doesn't determine your life, and that the actions and functions of your body do not determine your health, but rather that the issues of health are determined by your soul, by your spirit, by your consciousness, and that it is your consciousness that animates, governs, and controls the organs and functions of your body. Now, it takes time to make that transition, because for hundreds of years, thousands of years, we have been living under the universal belief that the body can talk back to us and tell us whether we're going to be healthy or sick, or whether we're going to live long or not, or whether we're going to function properly while we're here. And we have been trained to saying, my head aches me, or my heart pains me, so forth and so on. Whereas we now must make the transition into spiritual consciousness, which is the Christ teaching. What did hinder you? Rise, pick up your bed and walk. In other words, can paralyzed muscles keep you from walking? No, Jesus said. Rise, pick up your bed and walk. It can't hinder you at all. Why can't it hinder you? Because there is that at the center of your being which is called God, or soul, or consciousness, or spirit, or mind, which is the principle of life, the principle of your body, the law under your body, the substance and harmony under your body, and even the eternality and immortality of your body and of your mind. Now, one of the major things that seems to throw our bodies off kilter, off balance, is food, and the claim that it has power over us. I'm sure you've all seen the food frying and boiling and broiling in the pan, and it's kind of foolish to look at it and think that it has so much power over us. Actually, it hasn't. There again, it has been the belief, handed down to us through generations, that the nutritive value, the nourishment value of food is in the food. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to change your whole body, too, and may change your appetite. The nourishment value of your food is in your soul, in your consciousness, not out there in the food at all. You first have to impart to that food its nourishment value before it nourishes you, and first you have to give it its power to harm you before it can harm you. We've all done that from childhood by saying, this doesn't agree with me, or that doesn't agree with me, and so I won't eat it, or if I do eat it, it'll upset me. If I take coffee at night, it'll keep me awake. The point is that we can empower coffee to keep us awake. It's a strange thing that the opposite that's true in my household. My wife and I, when I'm home, are up 4 and 5 times a night with a pot of coffee going all night long, and we're drinking it all night long. And as fast as we take coffee, we can fall right to sleep. Just the way you put your belief into it, that's all. What is one man's meat is another man's poison. That has been said a long, long time, and it's true. Now then, I give you this as an unfoldment that came to me in my own work, that the food we eat does not nourish us, but that the consciousness, the soul at the center of my being gives it its value and imparts to that food the nourishment value that I'm to derive from it. And therefore, all food that I take is good. And if it has any qualities of world belief that isn't good, it can do no harm, since my consciousness doesn't empower it to be harm. And in and of itself, it has no harm, and is not harm. Now, you try this, those of you that would like. try before eating 3 times a day or as many times as you eat to realize that whatever of value there is in this food that I'm eating comes from my own consciousness. My own consciousness imparts to this food its value. And it draws out of this food whatever is necessary for the maintenance and sustenance of my body in health and in harmony. And here's what happens. Just as sooner or later you must do this with money, sooner or later you must do it with food, sooner or later you must do it with the organs and functions of the body. As you come to spiritual consciousness, you learn this great lesson, that nothing out here in this world of effect is power. Nothing and nobody is power. All power is in God at the center of my being. All power is in God. And that God at the center of my being imparts to my bones and blood and flesh, and to my food, and to my weather and climate, all of the energies and powers that they finally have in and on me. Once you pass from the belief that there is something external to you that has power over you, to the realization of the truth that all power is given unto me, that all power is derived from God, and that whether it's the organs and functions of the body, whether it's the food you eat, whether it's the climate or weather outside, that it is your consciousness, God, the soul of your being, that determines its good in your experience. When you have done that, you have passed into spiritual consciousness, in which you no longer look out there for your good, but you look to this great power within your own being for your good, and then when it appears outwardly as food, transportation, home, you enjoy it. You don't become an ascetic and deny it and throw it away, but you enjoy it. You enjoy it knowing that whatever of good it has, whatever of joy, whatever of pleasure, whatever of satisfaction or substance or nourishment has come from your soul, from the divine within you. And so also, you will not look to friends for your companionship. You will realize this, that this soul power at the center of your being will appear outwardly in your friendship. And so you'll never have occasion to be disappointed in a friend, because humanly, those that are friends today can be enemies tomorrow. That couldn't be true if we were realizing that our friends in and of themselves can't be friends or enemies. Only the God power at the center of our being gives them the power of friendship unto us. Only the God power at the center of our being makes it possible for me to say that which you understand and for you to understand that which I say. If there wasn't a God power at the center of our being, you would never understand this, and I would never be able adequately to express it. It's because there is one soul, one mind, functioning here as all of us, that makes it possible for this to be intelligible and intelligent. So it is. If food had a power of its own outside of the God who made it, now wouldn't we be in a real mess? Then we would be in trouble. If food or weather or climate had a power of its own, separate and apart from the God that made it, it would be in trouble. And there is the secret of the mystical life. There is the secret of the spiritual life. That's the secret revealed by Jesus when he says, I have meat ye know not. You could ask me for water, and I can give you water that would spring up into life eternal. I am the wine, I am the bread. That is the reason why at the three temptations, when he was an hungered, and the temptation came to him to give a good metaphysical treatment and turn the stone into bread, he said, no, none of that's for me. I'm not interested in food on the outside. Get thee behind me, Satan. I'm not making any miracles around here. Knowing that at the center of his own being was the God power that had to feed him and sustain him. And when it got ready to bring bread to him, the bread would be there. He wouldn't have to turn around and make a demonstration about it. God at the center of his being would produce it. That's the secret of all of those three temptations. There was no call for Jesus to jump off a cliff to prove that his life was eternal and that he had a God to sustain him. God was sustaining him up on top. Why jump off the cliff? He was satisfied where he was. He was being sustained. That was all that was necessary. He didn't have to prove it. It was going on. We don't have to prove anything. Life is going on for us. We have no right to try to prove it. And in proportion, as you realize that this life, which is your life, is self-sustained and self-maintained, you will make less effort to prolong it, less effort to improve it, and then you'll find it taking care of itself. In these days and weeks to come, why not join me, because I use it consciously. I remember consciously every day that God at the center of my being is the law of my experience, and it governs my every experience. God at the center of my being is the law of my friendships, the law of love unto me. God at the center of my being is the substance and the nourishment of the food that I eat. God at the center of my being is the law and the activity unto every organ and function of my body. God at the center of my being is the law of weather, the law of climate, and is the activity of the weather and the activity of the climate. And this God, the center of my being, which is the law and the substance and the reality of my being, the principle of my being, it draws unto me everything necessary for my good. It really acts as a law of elimination to everything not necessary to my spiritual unfoldment and development. It isn't much, but it is something to remember 3 times a day that all power is at the center of our being, vested in our own consciousness and our own soul, and that our own soul is the substance of our bodies and the substance of our food and the substance of our weather, the substance of our climate, the substance of our friendships and of our family relationships. Soul is that. God is that. God is the substance, the law, the activity, and the reality of all that concerns us, but only in proportion as we know the truth can this truth make us free. The truth doesn't make us free. Knowing the truth enables the truth to make us